name's Chris Wickson. I'm the General Manager for EMEA and our event solutions here at Integrate. Integrate, we're a B2B marketing technology company based in the US. I'm here in the UK. And prior to Integrate, I was the CEO and co-founder of a company called Accrue. We're an event technology company, and we were acquired by Integrate in April last year. I launched my first startup when I was at university back in 2007, which was a student recruitment website and ratings website. Still going strong today, 13 years later. And then we kind of fell into things from there, really. We launched the website. And then a few years later, back in 2013, we launched Accrue as a spin-off from the student company, RMP. Yeah, 13, coming up 14 years or so now. Tech marketing chose me. We fell into it, certainly in more recent years, when we first launched Accrue, which in its most simplest terms, it began as a mobile app replacement for using paper form and a clipboard at student events. So to replace having to handle handwritten forms and capturing marketing data, we built a mobile app back in 2011. So right at the start of kind of the smartphone tablet era. And we then really got pulled into the world of particularly B2B marketing technology by our customers as we went to market with the product, and we started exploring and experimenting in different areas, different markets. We really got pulled into the world of B2B, in particular B2B marketing technology. So it really found us rather than me finding marketing. Yeah, it's always a tough one, and obviously depends on, I guess, the stage you're at and the size of your team. I think for me personally, I've over the years had to learn to delegate effectively, which in turn comes back to making good hiring decisions and bringing on good people into your team who you can trust and ideally are better than you at whatever the thing is they work on. So yeah, having the knowledge that you've got the team around you who can take care of things and do things well does help you focus, because then I think if you're very clear on your objectives and your key results, we have all, for a number of years, have worked with the sort of OKRs, objectives and key results, as our sort of basis for setting our strategy and what success looks like. So I think as long as you're really clear on what those are, then I guess there's just that requirement to make sure you're constantly self-checking. Are you actually working on the right things that are going to help you get to those goals? Or we're all very busy. There's lots of distractions going on. It's very easy to have busy days, but are you actually getting closer to those objectives or key results? So that's just something, I guess, over the years I've tried to learn of, like, okay, what are my headline goals and objectives? And just that doesn't need to be every day, but just that sort of sense check against those. Is the work I've done today or what I'm planning to do today actually going to help me get closer to those? When we talk about future predictions, I think it's important to almost start and acknowledge with what's happened this year, particularly in B2B marketing and the landscape that we're operating in now. I think the term digital transformation is probably overused these days, but I guess that kind of proves the point, because I think this year has massively accelerated digital transformation across businesses all over the world. Like, it's literally been forced upon them through what's happening around the planet. So, we've seen old school businesses have had to adopt new technology, replace manual processes, old processes, old tech that they've been using. And then I think closer to home in our world of B2B marketing and sales, as I mentioned earlier, I really do think we're at the start of a new era. The whole of the B2B buying process is obviously remote right now and digital first. It's never been more complex to sell a product or a service because in B2B, because there are the buying committees are getting bigger every year. I think the latest data is, on average, there's 12 to 18 people within a buying committee in a business. And each one of those people requires lots of different touch points across lots of different channels to help, guide them to a decision, a purchase decision. Buyers are taking control of that as well. By the time they're getting in touch with vendors, they're already a long way down their decision, process. Um, so all of that has made this arguably, I think, in a recent Gartner report, they called it, the most challenging time for B2B marketers that has ever been. So that in itself, when we think about the future and the predictions, I think everything right now is forcing B2B marketers to pause, reset, rethink, really questioning deeply, is the way we've set up our teams and the tools and the tech that we use, is it actually aligned with what our buyers expect these days? Is it actually delivering results? There's a lot of noise in B2B marketing. We've all seen the MarTech landscape with thousands of vendors on there in all the different categories. We were one of those many vendors sort of on those grids. So it's made it very complex. So I think now if we look forward, I think some of the big sea changes that have already started, and I think we'll see over the next few years, is the lines between sales and marketing are completely blurring. If any business is still operating with sales over here and marketing over here, they're destined for failure. So those teams and worlds have come much closer together. We're seeing sales operate at the top of the funnel all the way through. We're seeing marketing it's not just about generating lots of clicks and eyeballs and top of funnel inquiries anymore. Marketing has to operate all the way through that funnel and the journey there. So I think the predictions around would just be to say, I think we are at the start of this new era, this new sea change. I don't know what the answer is yet, but I do think it's the next generation of marketing automation. I think if marketing automation emerged 10, 15 years ago and really transformed the ways companies were going to market intelligently through nurturing with emails, I think we're on the cusp of seeing just this new era that sits above or replaces, dare I say it, the old school marketing automation technology. So I just think, I think it's a really exciting time, and we're going to see some really interesting developments over the next couple of years. And I think, history tells us in times of crisis, you see categories created, you see massive change happen. And I think that's what's going to happen in the marketing technology, or is happening in the marketing technology landscape. In marketing, I think certainly for vendors, MarTech platforms, those that can enable businesses to actually operate omni-channel, and actually orchestrate buyer and account journeys that reflect what is actually happening out there. Not an easy thing to do, and we're seeing parts of it happen. We've seen obviously the rise at account-based marketing. That could be a whole nother webinar on ABM, but so I think the big opportunities are for the technology and the platforms out there can actually help orchestrate these buyer and account journeys across channels at different stages of the buyer decision, and then I guess enable customers or vendors who can enable businesses to, as our CMO would say, defend the spend. So as a marketer, truly being able to prove that where we spend the money and the activities that we do is effective, is having a measurable impact on pipeline. As I say, I think there's really lots of exciting innovations happening in this space, and it is a new emerging category. So I think there's going to be lots of opportunities in this sort of digital first space over the next 2-3 years. One quite specific bugbear that I would change, and that is around integrations. Obviously, conscious that I work for a company called Integrate, but that aside, I think we know there's so many tools and technologies that are out there that all look great and do great things in their own weird and wonderful ways, but it's so important now that we're able to connect these things together to truly deliver results. And I see so many tools and tech that say they can integrate with each other, but actually when you peel back the layers, they can't. So I think on the one side is on the vendor side too, we've got to make the ecosystems easier to connect things in and let our customers figure out their own marketing technology stacks and ensure that data properly integrates and flows back and forth. So that's on the vendors to make sure the technology is good, but also just a bit of a reset and a rethink about how integrations work. And so yeah, that's quite a specific one, but I think there's a lot of room for improvement in the industry around integrations. I would say it's important not to put the cart in front of the horse. And by that, I mean, as I alluded to earlier, we know there are so many different tools and technologies that you can experiment with and try and implement. But I think it's so important that you don't let the tools and tech and, don't let that determine your strategy. Comes back to having a clear view on what are your objectives, what are you trying to achieve, what's the business trying to achieve, and then building the technology around that. So I think that's a mistake. We certainly made that in a crew. We went after. I mean, by the time we got acquired, we had so many subscriptions to tools and tech that we'd played around with, experimented with, and that was great. And it does serve a purpose, and you have to do some of that. But we went way too far in many cases, probably where we just had too many things that it clouds your ability to figure out what are you actually trying to achieve. So that'd be my pre 2020 advice. I would give the same advice, but I'd also add to that now that I think this year has made, coming back to what I said earlier around this, forcing B2B marketing teams to reset and rethink about how they're organized internally. And I do think, again, as part of this sea change, we know historically most B2B marketing teams have operated in their channel silos. So you'd have your events team and your social media team and your email marketing team. And I just think that those days are over now. Like events is a great example of that, right? We've seen event teams sadly this year be, obviously pulled apart and in many cases furloughed or sadly, lost their jobs through obviously physical events being shut down. We know physical events are going to come back hopefully next year, but I just think we're moving more to a place where teams have to be and people have to be able to operate digital first across channels. So my advice to people entering the industry now would be, get as much exposure as you can across channel activity. Don't fall into one swim lane and one silo because you might end up getting stuck there. And I just think the reality of modern B2B marketing teams today is going to be an expectation that you can operate across channels. As I say, that's where the buyer journeys are going. So we have to be ready to match that.